Undercover boss arrives at his hotel, shocked when he overhears. Staff lying about VIP services. Ethan Moore stood just outside the gleaming glass doors of Harborview Bay, the flagship branch of his luxury hotel chain, Serene Haven. At 52, he had spent decades building a reputation for elegance and trust. Yet this particular location, perched on the edge of the coast, had been a silent question mark in his mind for months. 15 months, to be exact. The quarterly reports looked fine, occupancy steady, revenue climbing, but the guest feedback painted a very different picture. Complaints about hidden fees, frustration over vague charges, reviews whispering of dishonest upselling, and disrespectful staff behavior. Something didn't add up. Adjusting his worn baseball cap in the reflection of the revolving glass, Ethan barely recognized himself. A faded linen shirt, old khakis, dark sunglasses, and a few days of stubble. Nothing like the polished CEO seen on press covers and investor panels. That was the point. No one in this hotel had ever met him in person. He took a breath, stepped through the doors, and was immediately met by the cool scent of citrus and marble polish. Soft jazz floated through the lobby, and the receptionist offered a rehearsed smile. To most, it looked like a perfect afternoon in a five-star hotel. But Ethan felt it, a tension just under the surface, something slick behind the smiles. And as he approached the front desk, he already knew. The truth wasn't in the spreadsheets, it was in the people, and he was about to hear it sooner than he expected. He walked through the rotating doors, cool air, the scent of eucalyptus and stone polish, and a perfectly timed "Welcome to Serene Haven" greeted him. Behind the front desk, a young man in a tailored navy vest spotted him first. A practiced smile lit up his face. "Checking in, sir?" Ethan nodded casually. "Reservation for Moore. Standard King." The man typed rapidly, eyes flicking over the screen. "Ah yes, welcome Mr. Moore. Actually, you're in luck. We have a very exclusive offer today." He leaned forward, and just like that, the game began. The man introduced himself as Travis Jenkins, guest services lead. His badge gleamed almost as much as the product in his hair. "You're not going to believe this," Travis said, voice low, conspiratorial. "We've just launched a premium spa package. Not even on the website yet. Full hydrotherapy access, in-room massage, champagne delivery, plus a complimentary upgrade to a suite with a harbor view, all for just an extra $140. Ethan raised an eyebrow behind his sunglasses. "Sounds like a good deal." "Oh, it is," Travis grinned. "Most of our top-tier guests snap it up immediately, but I can offer it to you because there was a last-minute cancellation." Ethan tilted his head slightly. His voice stayed calm, even bored. "Interesting. Didn't see anything about a spa on the app." "Right. Like I said, it's new. Super exclusive," Travis insisted. "Totally off the books right now." But Ethan knew better. As CEO, every service, every promotion, every exclusive package had to be cleared through corporate. There was no spa package approved in the last 90 days. No in-room massages either. And champagne? Only for honeymoon suites or special request events. Still, Ethan played along. "All right then, sounds good." Travis beamed, launching into a whirlwind of keystrokes and printed papers. "Fantastic, you won't regret it. I'll just need a signature here and here." Before Ethan could reach for the pen, a quiet voice interrupted. "Sorry, that package was discontinued last month." Both men turned. A young woman stood at the far end of the desk. Her uniform was the same, navy vest, white blouse, but something about her felt different, less rehearsed, more real. Her name tag read, Amelia Reyes. Travis's smile froze, then sharpened. "Amelia, this guest is interested in our premium experience." Amelia kept her voice even. "Which we no longer offer. Corporate retired it after the renovation delays." Travis turned back to Ethan with a chuckle that didn't reach his eyes. "She's new, still learning the ropes." Amelia's eyes flicked to Ethan, apologetic. "I just didn't want there to be any confusion." Ethan offered her a small nod. Nothing more. Just a moment of silent acknowledgement. Travis cleared his throat and pushed the paper forward again. "Anyway, let's not worry about internal updates. It's still a great deal." Ethan paused. He glanced at the form. There it was, tucked beneath vague language and elegant font. Premium in-room spa experience. No details, no cancellation clause, no refund policy. He took the pen, but didn't sign. Instead, he smiled faintly. I think I'll hold off for now. Suit yourself, Travis said, folding the paper a little too quickly. His voice tightened. Just don't blame me if someone else grabs the suite. Ethan stepped away from the counter, heart beating slow and steady. He wasn't angry, not yet, but something had shifted. Not just because of the lie, not just because of Travis, because of Amelia. She hadn't yelled, she hadn't rebelled. She had simply spoken the truth in a room built on performance. Ethan found a quiet seat in the corner of the lobby, back to the wall, eyes on the front desk. And in that moment, one thing became clear. He hadn't come here to investigate numbers. He had come to witness character. And now, the real story was beginning. Ethan didn't move for a long time. From his corner in the lobby, he watched guests come and go, some smiling, some impatient. But his eyes kept returning to the front desk, where Travis floated between stations like a man on a stage, rehearsed and polished. Amelia, by contrast, stayed near the side, handling receipts, checking keys, never once pushing anything that wasn't asked. After about 20 minutes, Ethan returned to the desk, this time approaching as if he had reconsidered. Actually, he said casually, I might be interested in the dining package you mentioned. Travis lit up like a bulb. Ah, perfect. You won't regret it. What exactly is included? Full culinary experience, Travis said smoothly. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner at any of our on-site restaurants. No restrictions. Just sign here and it'll be billed directly to your room. Ethan leaned in, squinting slightly. Could I see the details? Travis hesitated just for a second, then handed over a glossy printout. It looked official, branded, watermarked, beautifully typeset. Ethan skimmed the bolded titles first. Serene Haven Platinum Culinary Experience. Underneath, in elegant serif font, it read, all-day access to breakfast buffets, in-room dining options, and seasonal tasting menus. But a footnote, written in fine gray print near the bottom, told another story. Dining access applies to breakfast only. Additional charges apply for a la carte lunch and dinner options. Room service is not included. Ethan looked up. So, lunch and dinner aren't actually included? Travis gave a quick, dismissive smile. It depends on how you interpret it. It's on the page, Ethan replied. Technically, yes, Travis admitted, but no one really reads the fine print. Most guests are happy just thinking they're covered. Ethan's grip on the paper tightened. And what happens when they find out at checkout? Travis shrugged. By then, they've already had the meals. Not much to complain about. Ethan exhaled slowly. He was still undercover, still in character. But the weight of what he was hearing was beginning to press on something deeper inside him. It wasn't just dishonesty. It was engineered confusion, polished exploitation. And for guests who saved months to afford a night here, it wasn't just about extra fees. It was about trust. Travis leaned forward again. If you want this, I need to lock it in now. This rate's only available pre-check-in. 5 minutes from now, I can't guarantee anything. Ethan didn't answer right away. Instead, he looked across the room at Amelia. She wasn't watching him, but she was watching a family checking in at the next desk. A father, tired but polite. A teenage daughter who looked nervous to be in a place so elegant. Amelia was explaining the key card system with gentle clarity. Not rushing, not pushing, just being human. Ethan turned back to Travis. Is this the last room with the deal? He asked. Only one left. Travis nodded eagerly. Lucky timing. And if I don't take it? Travis didn't blink. Someone else will. There it was. The tactic. Fear of missing out. Pressure cloaked in politeness. A system designed not to serve, but to trap. Ethan removed his sunglasses slowly. Then he took off his cap. Travis's smile faltered as recognition started to creep in. I'm Ethan Moore, he said evenly, founder and CEO of Serene Haven. The silence between them swelled like a tide. I just asked you twice to clarify a package that doesn't exist the way you said it did, Ethan continued, voice calm but cutting. And both times you manipulated the facts to pressure a sale. Travis's mouth opened slightly, but no words came. Ethan wasn't finished. You did it knowing full well that the real details were hidden in type so small it required a magnifier to read. You also dismissed a fellow team member who tried to speak up. In front of a guest. Travis took a step back, stammering now. Sir, I didn't mean... Ethan didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Go get your manager. Travis turned and walked off in stiff, hurried steps. And Ethan, who hadn't raised his voice once, now stood alone at the counter, paper still in hand, watching as the reality behind the five-star polish finally began to crack. This wasn't about one lie anymore. It was about the culture that let that lie exist. Ethan didn't move from the front desk. He stood there, hands calm at his sides, the crumpled brochure still between his fingers. Guests drifted past him, some on their phones, others wheeling polished luggage across the marble floor. No one stopped to look. No one knew what was happening, but Ethan could feel the shift in the air. A storm was coming, and it was going to start behind the glass walls of the manager's office. A few minutes later, Travis returned, his expression flat, professional. Behind him walked Oliver Chase, the hotel manager. 42, tall, sharp-blazered, with just enough gray at the temples to suggest experience, and enough hesitation in his eyes to suggest he already knew something was wrong. Mr. Moore, Oliver began, forcing a polite smile as he extended his hand. Had I known you were coming, you would have prepared something, Ethan interrupted, not taking the handshake. That's why I didn't announce it. Oliver's face stiffened, and Ethan gestured toward the office down the hall. Let's talk in private. They walked together, Oliver unlocking the door with a pass card and motioning Ethan inside. The room was sleek, air-conditioned, and surrounded on three sides by glass. A frosted panel gave the illusion of privacy, but Ethan wasn't looking for illusion today. Travis lingered near the door. Stay, Ethan said without looking back. You're a part of this. Oliver cleared his throat, moving behind the desk as if the furniture might shield him. I'm sure there's a misunderstanding. Travis is one of our top performers. His upsell numbers are exactly what I'm here to talk about, Ethan said, folding the brochure and placing it gently on the desk. Let's start with this. Oliver scanned it quickly. His eyebrows shifted, but not in surprise, more like discomfort being confirmed. This is a standard marketing sheet, he replied. We've used it for the last quarter. And how many guests have you refunded because they thought they were getting lunch and dinner included? There was no immediate answer. Travis cleared his throat. Sir, I always explain it's mostly breakfast. You said full coverage, twice. Travis opened his mouth again, but Ethan cut him off. Don't lie again. Not here. Oliver sat back slowly in his chair. Look, there's pressure to keep numbers up. Occupancy is down across the region, and corporate hasn't exactly been easy on the quarterly targets. Ethan's voice dropped, low, calm, but cold. So you compensated by misleading guests? No, Oliver said quickly. We restructured the language of our packages to emphasize value. Ethan laughed under his breath. It wasn't a real laugh, more of an exhale through pain. That's not value. That's deception. And the worst part isn't even the lie. It's the way it's been normalized. He turned to Travis. You told me if I didn't book right away, I'd lose the deal. Was that true? Travis shrugged in defensive. We say that to create urgency. Guests expect it. No, Ethan said, stepping closer. They don't expect to be manipulated. They expect to be informed. And if we're tricking them, that's not sales. It's fraud. Oliver looked away now, toward the tinted glass. Ethan didn't stop. There's another problem, he said. Amelia. Oliver blinked. What about her? She corrected Travis, politely, quietly, and instead of being thanked for upholding the truth, she was scolded, shut down, in public. What kind of message does that send to the rest of your staff? Oliver hesitated. She's new. She's not familiar with how we manage upsells. Ethan leaned in slightly. She's more familiar with integrity than either of you. Silence. Only the hum of the air conditioning filled the space between them. Finally, Ethan spoke again. Do you know what it feels like to save for months for one night of peace, only to be handed a bill full of things you didn't agree to? Oliver's jaw clenched. We try to make the experience premium. You made it performative, Ethan replied. And when the curtain falls, what's left? He let that question hang in the air. Then he straightened, pressing his palms against the desk. Here's what happens next, he said. You will call a meeting with your entire team. Today, you will sit down with me afterward to review every guest complaint from the last 3 months. Every upsell, every disputed charge Travis looked like he wanted to protest, but he didn't. And if I find out this wasn't an isolated case, Ethan turned to Oliver again, eyes locked. You won't be managing a Serene Haven property by tomorrow morning. There was no threat in his tone, only fact. Oliver nodded stiffly. I understand. Good, Ethan said. Then let's start fixing what we broke. He walked to the door, opened it, and the quiet hum of the lobby washed back over him as he stepped out, not just as a guest or a CEO, but as someone ready to rebuild trust, piece by piece. The door to the manager's office clicked softly behind Ethan as he stepped back into the lobby. Everything looked the same. Marble floors gleaming under crystal chandeliers, polished brass rails curving along the mezzanine, Bell staff standing tall at their stations. But something in the air had changed. Ethan didn't need a clipboard or security badge to sense it. He could feel it in the way conversations hushed as he passed, in the darting eyes of staff who recognized now, too late, who he was. Not just a guest, not just a man in old sunglasses, the founder. He didn't walk fast, he wasn't angry, but every step was deliberate, quiet, and steady, like someone listening for a heartbeat in a room full of noise. At the front desk, Amelia stood alone. Her hands moved across the keyboard, but her eyes flicked up the second she sensed him. She froze. Ethan stopped a few feet away. Miss Reyes, he said gently. She straightened, visibly nervous. Yes, sir? He gestured toward the small seating area behind the concierge desk. Do you have 5 minutes? She hesitated, then nodded. They sat across from each other in 2 high-backed chairs. A potted plant half hid them from view, but not completely. Guests came and went. A child giggled in the distance. The hotel carried on as if nothing had happened. But between the two of them, a different kind of moment was unfolding. Ethan didn't pull out a notebook. He didn't speak first. He just looked at her. Really looked, until the silence became almost unbearable. Then softly he asked, "Why did you correct him?" Amelia's eyes widened. Her voice came quietly. Because what he said wasn't true. Most wouldn't say anything, especially in front of a guest. She hesitated, then replied, "I wasn't trying to embarrass him. I just didn't want you to believe something that wasn't real." Ethan nodded slowly, letting that land. "Have you done that before?" he asked. "Spoke up like that?" She looked down at her hands. "Not often. I just started here a few weeks ago. But I've seen things." "What kind of things?" She hesitated again, as if weighing how much she could trust him, even now. "Guests being charged for things they never used," she said finally. "Being promised wine service or late checkouts that were never scheduled. Most of them don't even argue. They just sign the bill and leave, looking disappointed." Ethan leaned back, his expression unreadable. "And have you ever brought this up to your manager?" Amelia shook her head. "I'm still on probation. They said I'm lucky to be here. I didn't want to cause problems." "That wasn't causing a problem," Ethan said. "That was protecting the brand." Amelia's lips parted slightly, as if the idea surprised her. "I watched you," he continued, voice quiet but firm. "You didn't raise your voice. You didn't accuse. You just told the truth. Do you know how rare that is?" She didn't respond, but her fingers curled slightly on her lap. She wasn't used to being praised. Ethan studied her for a moment longer. "I built Serene Haven to be more than luxury on the surface," he said. "It was supposed to be a place where people felt safe, cared for, seen." He paused. "But somewhere along the way, we traded trust for profit." Amelia's voice was barely above a whisper. "I don't think everyone meant to." "No," Ethan agreed, But intent doesn't undo impact. They sat in silence again, but this one was warmer, less heavy, more like two people standing quietly at the same truth. Ethan leaned forward, resting his forearms on his knees. "I'm going to fix this," he said, "but I need help." Amelia looked surprised. "From me? Especially from you?" She blinked. "I want to know what you've seen, what you've heard, and I want you to help me rebuild this place the way it should have been all along." Amelia glanced around, still unsure if she was dreaming. "But I'm just front desk." Ethan smiled faintly. "That's where trust begins, at the front." Her throat worked as she swallowed. Slowly, she nodded. "Okay," she whispered. "I'll help." Ethan stood, offering a hand. She took it, still tentative. As they parted, Ethan glanced back once. Amelia had returned to her station, but her shoulders were higher now. Her eyes are clearer. He knew she didn't fully believe it yet. Didn't know she just changed the trajectory of an entire company with one quiet correction. But he knew, and that was enough. For now. Because transformation rarely starts with loud declarations. Sometimes it begins with the smallest voice saying, "That's not right." Later that same afternoon, just as Ethan stepped into the staff hallway to take a quiet moment to himself, he heard the sound of a child's voice echo down the marble corridor. It wasn't loud, but there was something about the tone, sharp, confused, frustrated, that made him pause. "I told you, Mom, this isn't what they said on the phone." He turned instinctively and stepped toward the lobby once more. At the front desk stood a middle-aged woman in a pale blue linen blouse, her brows furrowed, holding a crumpled reservation printout. Next to her was a boy, no older than 11, his backpack half unzipped, one shoelace undone. His expression said everything. He wasn't having a tantrum. He was telling the truth. Ethan's eyes flicked to the guest profile screen that Amelia was now leaning over, her calm voice steady but concerned. "I'm so sorry, Mrs. Caldwell," she said, scanning the record. "It says here you booked the family retreat package, but—" "There's nothing here," the woman interrupted, trying to stay composed. "We were promised late checkout, poolside breakfast service, an activity kit for my son. And we were charged almost $2,000. He was the one who was so excited. He kept reading it to me. Every detail," the boy nodded quickly. "It said ocean-themed welcome basket. I memorized it." Amelia looked helplessly at the screen again. "That description isn't in our system anymore." "Because someone deleted it," the boy muttered. "Or made it up." Ethan stepped forward now, quietly but with purpose. "Excuse me," he said gently. "I think I can help." Amelia looked up, eyes meeting his. She understood instantly. So did Mrs. Caldwell. Her expression flickered as she recognized the man who had been standing near reception earlier. "And the boy?" He simply stared at Ethan and asked, "Are you the boss?" Ethan smiled softly. "Yes, I am." The boy turned toward his mom and whispered, "I told you someone would care." That sentence hit Ethan harder than he expected, not because of the words, but because of how rare it had become to hear them. "I'd like to see your confirmation email," he said. Mrs. Caldwell pulled out her phone, scrolling, then handed it to him. Ethan read it carefully. The family retreat package wasn't just real. It had been marketed aggressively. But what was promised had never been delivered. He turned to Amelia. "Do you know who sold them this package?" Amelia nodded slowly. "Travis, about 3 weeks ago." "Of course." Ethan exhaled through his nose. Not out of anger, out of deep, rising clarity. This wasn't a one-time fluke. It was a pattern. And it was hurting people who had put their trust in the name Serene Haven. He turned to Mrs. Caldwell and her son. "I want to personally apologize," he said, voice low but steady. "You weren't just overcharged. You were misled, and that's on us." She looked stunned. The boy's eyes widened. "I'm going to refund your full stay," Ethan continued. "I'll make sure your room is comped tonight, and I'd like to offer you an additional stay on us at a location of your choice." He looked at the boy. "And yes, we'll have the ocean-themed basket waiting." The boy smiled, not a wide grin, but something real, quiet, like he'd been seen. Amelia blinked fast, her chest rising. Mrs. Caldwell was quiet for a moment, then said softly, "Thank you. I didn't expect that." "You should have," Ethan said. "That's what this place is supposed to stand for." As they walked off, with Amelia leading them toward a fresh room assignment, Ethan remained still. He watched the boy look around the lobby with new eyes, no longer confused, but believing again. And just like that, Ethan realized something crucial. He wasn't just fixing an accounting issue. He was repairing trust. And trust, once broken, didn't come back with speeches. It came back when a child felt heard, when a mother didn't have to fight to be respected, when a young employee wasn't afraid to speak up. He looked around at the polished floors and towering ceilings. It was time to go deeper. What had been sold as elegance was now a mask for deception, but not for much longer. Because in that small voice, that small correction from a front desk clerk, and now this honest complaint from a child, Ethan saw something larger than any policy or training manual. He saw the truth rising, and he wasn't going to look away. After the Caldwells were escorted to their new suite, Ethan stood for a long time in the center of the lobby. The polished marble floor beneath him reflected everything: chandeliers, tailored uniforms, the illusion of perfection. But in his mind, all he could see was that boy's face. And all he could hear was Amelia saying, "That package doesn't exist in our system anymore." He didn't need to pace. He didn't need to call a lawyer or summon a PR team. He needed facts. So he turned and walked straight through the side hallway, past the banquet scheduling room, and into the restricted operations office. The door creaked as he pushed it open. Inside, a tall man in shirt sleeves looked up, startled. It was Oliver Chase. "Mr. Moore," Oliver said, quickly setting his coffee down and standing, trying to appear composed. "I was just about to file—" "Sit," Ethan said gently, but firmly. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. Oliver sat. "I want to see every internal document related to upsell training, pricing models, and customer billing methods used in this branch over the past 6 months," Ethan said. "No summaries, no filtered spreadsheets. I want the raw numbers." Oliver hesitated. "That might take a few hours to—" "Now," Ethan interrupted. Oliver nodded stiffly, opened his laptop, and began forwarding files from the shared corporate system. Within minutes, Ethan had a compressed folder open on his phone. He scrolled through PDFs and exported tables, invoices, internal memos. Then one tab caught his eye, a file named T4S Ops Amendments version 3. He tapped it open, and what he saw made his jaw tighten. It was a policy draft, internal only, not meant for guests or even most employees. The header was harmless: Tier 4 Service Enhancement Proposal. But beneath that, a clause written in vague, layered language that only someone trained to read between the lines would notice. In select Tier 4 markets, upsell adjustments may be integrated into base pricing under a discretionary inclusion model, enabling real-time bundling without line item visibility. Ethan read it twice, and then a third time. Discretionary inclusion, without line item visibility. It meant they'd been allowed to bury charges into the price of rooms without clearly informing the customer. It wasn't just Travis. It wasn't even just Oliver. This was systemic. Ethan looked at Oliver. "What is this?" Oliver rubbed the back of his neck. "That's part of the dynamic pricing initiative. The corporation approved it in principle. I assumed—" "You assumed what?" Oliver hesitated. "That it gave us leeway to stay competitive, to hit quarterly targets. We're in a luxury market. Customers expect extra charges." "No," Ethan said quietly. "They expect honesty, and they didn't get it." Oliver shifted in his chair. "With all due respect, sir, upselling is part of this industry. If we don't offer premium packages, our numbers suffer. Guests might not even notice." "They notice," Ethan replied. "A kid noticed." He took a slow breath. His voice dropped even lower. "And Amelia noticed. She didn't get the memo, or maybe she did, but chose not to follow it." Oliver looked away. "She wasn't trained to manipulate. She was hired to serve. And instead, she's been standing on her own while people like Travis push customers into overpriced illusions." He turned the screen around so Oliver could see it. "Tell me, did you write this?" Oliver swallowed hard. adapted it from the regional revenue template. It wasn't meant to be unethical, just strategic. That's the problem, Ethan said. You think this is a strategy. It's not. It's cowardice dressed as innovation. The silence between them wasn't hostile. It was sobering. Ethan closed the laptop, handed it back, and stood. You're going to delete that policy. Today, you're going to print out every hidden fee case and give me the customer names. We're going to refund each one, call them personally, and issue a formal apology. Oliver said nothing, but he nodded, because there was nothing left to defend. Before Ethan left the room, he turned back one more time. One more thing, he said. I want Amelia brought into this process. She's going to help us rebuild what we broke. Oliver blinked. She's still on probation. Then consider this her promotion. And with that, Ethan walked out, not with fury, but with clarity. The kind of clarity that only comes when you stop pretending a crack is just a shadow. The game was over, and now the truth had a name, a face, and a voice. Amelia. And soon, if they did this right, so would every honest employee who had been afraid to speak up. Because it was no longer just about fixing prices, it was about fixing trust. It was nearly 4 p.m. when Ethan stepped back out into the grand lobby of Serene Haven Harborview Bay. The sunlight through the glass atrium caught the edge of the marble counters, making the space glow with warm, golden beauty, immaculate and utterly misleading. He could have waited, scheduled a staff meeting for next week, sent a memo through the chain of command. But Ethan Moore didn't believe in delay when integrity was already overdue. He took one slow breath and approached the front desk. Oliver, he said calmly to the manager still seated at his station, assemble everyone. Now. Oliver hesitated for a split second, then nodded and picked up the hotel intercom. Within minutes, staff members began to gather. Housekeeping in pressed uniforms, concierge in navy blazers, waitstaff peeking out from the dining corridor. Travis wasn't present. He had already left after resigning. But Amelia arrived, looking confused yet calm, her eyes flicking to Ethan, then back to the forming circle. Guests glanced up from the lounge. A few stood, sensing the weight of what was unfolding. Ethan stepped to the center of the atrium. No stage, no microphone, just presence. He looked around at the people, some curious, some nervous, a few clearly uncomfortable. I won't keep you long, he began, his voice low but strong. But I need to say something out loud. Right here, right now. The lobby went silent. I built Serene Haven with a single belief, that hospitality means trust, that guests walk through these doors expecting honesty, clarity, and care, not confusion, manipulation, or hidden charges. He paused. And yet, that's what some of them received. A flicker moved through the crowd, shifts of feet, eyes lowering. Ethan continued. This morning, I checked into this hotel undercover. Within minutes, I was sold a non-existent package, pressured into an upgrade, and misled about what I was paying for. And I wasn't the only one. A mother and her son returned today to report being charged for a retreat they never received. His gaze swept across the team, finally landing on Amelia, who looked back with quiet strength. One of you, just one, chose to speak up, not with noise, not with drama, just a sentence. He nodded toward her. That's not right. Everyone turned to Amelia. She didn't smile. She didn't flinch. And she was right, Ethan said. This hotel's policies, including a program that allowed fees to be hidden from guests, are being dismantled, starting now. No more bundled lies, no more pressure scripts, no more unethical upselling. He raised a printed document, the internal pricing policy he'd uncovered. This file, he said, is no longer valid. Every transaction over the last 3 months will be reviewed. Every misleading charge will be refunded. Every apology personally delivered. Someone in the back let out an audible breath. This is not punishment, Ethan clarified. This is a correction. It's how we make things right, not with slogans, but with service. He stepped closer to the front desk now to where Amelia stood. And this young woman will be helping lead that effort. A beat of stunned silence. Then someone clapped. It wasn't thunderous. Just one pair of hands, then another, and another. Within seconds, the lobby was filled with applause. Not for celebration, but for release, relief, validation, change. When the sound faded, Ethan looked back at the team. I know not all of you approved of what was happening. I know some of you felt trapped, pressured, afraid of losing hours, commissions, and positions. But the moment you sell your honesty to meet a number, you've already lost something much greater. He let the words hang, then offered a gentler tone. We will rebuild this hotel, together, not just the building, but the trust behind its name. A few employees exchanged glances. One housekeeper wiped her eyes discreetly. The man from the concierge nodded once. Ethan turned back to Oliver. You're going to lead the logistical review, but from this point on, I want Amelia copied in on every guest recovery initiative. She has a voice, and now she has my backing. Oliver looked humbled. He didn't resist. Understood, he said quietly. Ethan stepped back. The moment was done, but the change had begun. As people started to move, whisper, and return to their stations, Amelia remained in place. She met Ethan's eyes. No smile, no performance, just quiet steadiness. And Ethan gave her a single nod. Because sometimes revolutions don't start with shouting. They start with someone whispering the truth and refusing to be silenced. The applause had faded. The lobby returned to its hushed elegance. But behind the scenes, things were anything but calm. An hour after Ethan's public address, he found himself in the manager's office again. The blinds were drawn now, casting long horizontal shadows across the glass table. Oliver Chase sat opposite him, less defensive than earlier, but still tense, like a man caught between duty and consequence. I've begun pulling the ledgers, Oliver said, sliding a digital tablet across the table. Ethan didn't reach for it right away. What did you find? Oliver hesitated. It's worse than we thought. He tapped the screen. This is just a sample of the past month. 17 transactions where room rates were manipulated post-check-in. 32 instances of optional packages added to bills without confirmation. One guest charged nearly $900 across 3 nights, most of it for services they never used. Ethan's jaw locked. He picked up the tablet, scrolling silently. Each entry was a scar, silent proof of a system that had learned how to disguise wounds as upgrades. And this, Oliver continued reluctantly, is the worst of it. He opened another folder. Service memos from regional management. Phrases like maximize revenue per room, preload wellness fees, encourage package expansion at check-in, and the most damning, silent pricing is better than customer confrontation. Ethan's thumb hovered over the screen. Silent pricing? He asked, voice low. Oliver nodded. It was a term they used internally. It means you fold in charges quietly, hoping the guest either accepts it or doesn't notice. Ethan leaned back in his chair, staring at nothing for a moment. Then he set the tablet down like it was something contagious. You implemented this? He asked. I followed regional instructions, Oliver replied quickly. I didn't create them. But you didn't stop them either. No. The honesty was bitter, but it was real. Ethan stood up, moving to the window. From here, he could see the sun dipping toward the bay, casting orange light over the hotel's rooftop garden. Guests sipped wine on the terrace. They had no idea of the rot that had crept behind the marble and glass. He turned back. We're not just refunding, Ethan said. We're contacting every guest affected. Personally? Oliver's eyes widened. That's hundreds of transactions. Then we start with 10 tonight, Ethan replied. Pick the ones with the highest discrepancies. Write an honest apology. Offer to make it right. And if they don't respond, they will. Because people remember being wronged more than being served. Oliver nodded. Understood. Ethan took a step closer. One more thing, he said. Who else knew? Oliver blinked. About the fee bundling? Number, about the policy to look the other way. There was a long pause. Then Oliver exhaled. I'd say most of middle management, especially the night leads. They weren't instructed to mislead, but they knew what Travis and a few others were doing. And Amelia, she never touched it. She never even signed up for the upsell system, said it made her uncomfortable. Ethan felt something shift in his chest, quiet relief. maybe even pride. She was the only one, he murmured. Oliver looked down. I think she still believes hospitality should mean something. Ethan's voice was steady now. It should. He turned toward the door, pausing with one hand on the knob. Get the full ledger ready by morning. I want names, dates, and charges. No more summaries. No more damage control. Oliver nodded. I'll work through the night if I have to. Ethan gave a short nod and stepped out. As he walked down the hallway, he passed framed photos of ribbon cuttings and 5-star reviews, the public face of Serene Haven. But inside each room now was a file waiting to be reopened, a moment of betrayal that needed to be reversed. Back at the front desk, Amelia stood quietly, checking in a couple with calm professionalism. Her tone was warm. Her words were clear. No hidden offers, no silent fees. She saw Ethan approach and finish the check-in, offering the guests a map of the amenities. When she turned to him, she didn't ask what he'd found. She already knew. How bad is it? She asked softly. Ethan didn't sugarcoat. Bad, but not unfixable. She nodded once. Then we fix it. It wasn't a question. It wasn't a wish. It was a declaration. And Ethan, for the first time in months, felt like maybe, just maybe, this place still had a soul. The sun had disappeared behind the hills of Harborview Bay, casting long, sleepy shadows across the polished tile floors of Serene Haven. The lobby lights glowed a little warmer as the evening guests trickled in, unaware of the internal reckoning taking place just behind the scenes. Ethan stood by the second-floor mezzanine, watching the quiet rhythm of check-ins and bellhops. For the first time in years, he wasn't just thinking like a CEO. He was feeling like a founder again, wrestling with the weight of every decision, every policy, every person that bore his name. That's when he saw Travis. He was walking briskly toward the side exit, not even bothering with the staff locker room. In his hand was a sleek black duffel bag. His tie was loosened, his name tag gone. But the swagger, still there, just a little chipped around the edges. Ethan called after him, just once. Travis. Travis stopped. He didn't turn around right away. When he finally did, his jaw was clenched. I figured you'd want me gone, he said. I figured you'd want a conversation before walking out. Travis let out a bitter laugh. What's left to say, Mr. Moore? You saw what you wanted to see. You made your judgment. Ethan took a few steps closer, stopping about 5 feet away. You lied to customers, pressured them with fake urgency, and sold packages we don't offer. And worse, you shut down the only person who tried to tell the truth. I did my job, Travis snapped. I hit targets. I brought in revenue. Isn't that what matters? Not if you burn the trust we built to get there. Travis looked away, toward the grand chandelier hanging over the lobby. You want the truth? Half the people here do what I do. They just do it quieter. I didn't invent this. I just played the game better. Ethan's voice was calm, but sharp. Then why are you the one leaving? Travis didn't answer right away. His gaze dropped to the floor. For a split second, the bravado cracked, and something older, more tired, leaked through. Because I know I won't change, he admitted. I'd go through your ethics training, nod, smile, then find a loophole next week. It's what I know. It's what's worked. Ethan studied him. And you think that's enough? That getting by means succeeding? Travis shook his head slowly. I think people like Amelia slow things down. They ask too many questions. They care too much. And you, he pointed not with aggression, but almost in confusion. You're turning a business into a church. Ethan didn't flinch. I'm turning it into something people can trust again. The two men stood in silence for a long moment. Then Travis slung the bag over his shoulder. Well, I hope you find more of her. Because of this place? It's going to chew up people like that. She's still here, Ethan said. And you're not. That tells me all I need to know about who this place was built for. Travis nodded slowly. Maybe, but watch your back. People in the corporate world won't like what you're doing. The hidden fees, the upsell bonuses, they came from higher up than me. I know, Ethan replied, and I'm not done. Travis took one last look at the lobby, the place that had made him money, given him status, let him climb faster than his peers. Now it felt smaller, tighter, like it had already moved on without him. "You'll never make as much playing it clean," he said. "Maybe not," Ethan replied, "but I'll sleep better." With that, Travis turned and walked out into the warm night air, disappearing into the darkness just beyond the marble columns. Ethan didn't follow. Instead, he made his way back to the front desk. Amelia was there, reviewing a list of tomorrow's VIP check-ins. She looked up as he approached. "He's gone?" she asked. Ethan nodded. She didn't smile, didn't gloat. Just closed the file and exhaled. "Was it the right call?" she asked softly. "Yes," Ethan said, "but not just because of what he did." "Then what?" "Because of what you didn't do." Amelia frowned, not understanding. "You didn't look away. You didn't pretend. You didn't say, 'That's not my job.'" He paused, then added, "That's leadership." She didn't know what to say, so she said nothing, just nodded. But in her silence, Ethan saw something Travis never had: conviction. And just like that, the weight of the past began to shift, leaving space for something new. Not flashy, not loud, but honest. And that, Ethan thought, was where real leadership started. 3 weeks later, the morning sun spilled gently over the Harborview Bay Marina, casting golden ripples across the water that mirrored the soft clinks of porcelain inside the Serene Haven lobby cafe. Ethan Moore sat at a corner table near the wide glass window, a black coffee in his hand, untouched. His blazer was draped casually over the back of his chair, sleeves rolled to his forearms, shirt slightly wrinkled. For once, he looked less like a CEO and more like what he had become over the last few weeks: an observer, a quiet builder. Across the lobby, the hotel didn't sparkle with artificial gloss the way it used to. It didn't need to. The air felt clearer now, real. There was no overselling, no smothering, just calm. At the front desk, Amelia Reyes stood in a crisp new uniform, now wearing the name badge of front office supervisor. She greeted a family of 3 with a smile that didn't try too hard. She wasn't trying to impress anymore, just to be honest. Present. "Welcome to Serene Haven," she said warmly. "Let me walk you through what's included in your stay, and anything extra, I'll show you exactly where it applies so there are no surprises." The father, visibly tired after a long flight, exhaled with relief. "That actually helps." "Thank you," Ethan watched the exchange with quiet satisfaction. No pressure, no manipulation, just service. Behind the scenes, a lot had changed. Ethan had personally ordered the removal of all ambiguous upgrade bundles. A new transparent pricing policy now sits printed on every check-in counter. The infamous T4S fee code had been retired permanently, and with the board's reluctant but eventual support, a new ethics liaison team was now operating across all Serene Haven properties. Amelia had helped train the new hires herself. Her orientation sessions didn't involve scripts or upselling tips. Instead, she told her story about the moment she spoke up in the lobby, not knowing who was watching, about the risk she took, about how that single act shifted the entire culture. And the new hires listened, not because they had to, but because something about her presence made them want to. The kitchen door opened quietly. Oliver Chase, the branch manager, stepped out and nodded at Ethan from across the room. He looked humbled, quieter than usual, but steady. They had rebuilt some trust, slowly. Ethan didn't expect perfection, only effort, and Oliver had been giving it. At the cafe counter, Ethan's coffee was refilled without asking. A young barista nodded to him. "On the house, sir. I heard what you did here." Ethan offered a soft smile. "It wasn't just me." The barista pointed toward the front desk. "Yeah, but it started with someone finally noticing." Outside the revolving glass door, a couple walked in, dragging 2 suitcases. The bellhop met them with genuine enthusiasm. "We don't believe in hidden charges," he said, echoing the new slogan printed discreetly on a nearby sign. "If you have questions, ask anything. We'd rather explain than disappoint." No scripts, no gimmicks, just trust. Ethan took a final sip of his now lukewarm coffee and stood, walking slowly through the lobby like any guest. No one knew him. No one rushed to straighten their jackets or put on fake smiles. That was the point. He passed Amelia again on the way out. She looked up, caught his eye, and nodded. Not like an employee to a boss, but like a person acknowledging another human being who had shown up when it mattered. That small nod, unspoken but full of meaning, was the final thread stitching everything back together. As Ethan pushed the glass door open, the morning breeze met him like an old friend. He paused for just a second on the steps outside and looked back. The hotel was still elegant, still high-end, but now it was also something more. It was honest, it was safe, and it was his again. Not because it bore his name on the sign, but because someone like Amelia believed in what that name meant. He walked down the steps into the soft bustle of the bay. Not every employee had stayed, not every problem was fixed, but for the first time in years, Ethan wasn't managing a brand. He was rebuilding a legacy. And this was only the beginning. Sometimes change doesn't come from loud voices or grand gestures. It comes from the quiet ones. The receptionist who speaks up, knowing she might lose her job. The CEO who chooses to listen when he could have walked away. The moment when truth is whispered and finally heard. That's how a system changes, not by fear, not by pressure, but by one person doing the right thing when no one else will. Because what builds trust, what holds a brand, a business, a legacy together, isn't just numbers. It's people who remember what integrity feels like. And today, because Amelia spoke up, an entire hotel remembered how to serve with honesty again. So if this story moved you, if it reminded you of the kind of world we still believe in, a world where the good ones can rise and ethics still matter, then help us keep telling these stories. Subscribe to the channel. Like this video to share the message. Comment below, I believe in honest leadership. Because somewhere out there, someone like Amelia is still holding the line. And someone like Ethan is still watching, quietly, ready to rebuild. Thanks for watching.